What follows is based on the psychological framework of Carl Jung. If you have been through a spiritual experience that left you empty, this video is for you. Picture this. You have spent years searching, meditating, reading everything you could find, going to retreats, doing the inner work that most people never even attempt. And then one day, something shifts. You have what you can only describe as an awakening, a moment of pure clarity where everything makes sense, where the noise in your head finally goes quiet. You expect that moment to launch you. You expect fire and direction and unstoppable energy. You think, this is where everything finally begins. But instead, something strange happens. The fire goes out. The goals you were chasing suddenly look like somebody else's dreams. The career, the milestones, the relationships, all of it, hollow. You lie there wondering why you cannot make yourself care about anything anymore. And here is what makes it stranger. You are not sad, not depressed in the way that has a name. You are just empty. If any of that sounds familiar, I need you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not failing. What you are going through has a name. Carl Jung spent decades studying exactly this. He had a framework for it, and most importantly, he had a path through it. Jung spent the early part of his career studying a pattern that disturbed him deeply. People would work their entire lives toward a meaningful goal, reach it, and feel completely empty inside, not needing a vacation, not temporarily unfulfilled, genuinely hollow, like something essential had been removed without their knowledge. Jung called this a fundamental collision between the life a person builds for the outside world and the life their deeper self is actually calling them toward. Most of us spend the early part of our lives building what Jung called the persona, the carefully constructed version of ourselves we present to the world in exchange for approval, belonging, and safety. Our career ambitions, our relationship goals, our fear of failure, our need for recognition, all of it lives inside that persona. And the persona is not evil. It is not fake in a malicious way. It is actually necessary. The problem is when we mistake the mask for the face underneath it. For years, maybe decades, that persona is the engine running your life. It tells you what to want, what counts as success, what you need to achieve before you are allowed to feel enough. And then, awakening happens. And in one disorienting flash, you see through it. You see that the career goals were rooted in fear of not being enough. The relationship chasing was about feeling worthy. The whole machine of your ambition was running on unconscious anxiety about your own value. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Jung described this phase using a concept from medieval alchemy. He called it the nigredo, a Latin word meaning blackening. In alchemy, the nigredo was the first stage of transformation. The raw material had to be broken down completely before it could be rebuilt into something new. Jung used this as a metaphor for psychological transformation. Before something authentic can be born in you, the inauthentic has to die first. The problem is that most people do not have a roadmap for this. When it happens, they panic. They try to go back to the old goals and find the hunger is gone. They try to manufacture new ones and find nothing sticks. Jung saw this happen over and over, and his message was always the same. Do not run from the emptiness. You are not stuck. You are in the chrysalis. Jung had a name for what is underneath all of this. He called it purpose poisoning. Imagine someone who has spent 15 years building a career they believed in. Real sacrifices, real results. By every outside measure, successful. And then something happens. Maybe a retreat, maybe a quiet Tuesday morning, when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And they see what was driving them all along. Not passion, not purpose. Fear. Fear of being seen as a failure. Fear of not living up to expectations. Fear that if they stopped achieving, they would discover there was nothing underneath worth caring about. Once they see that, the ambition collapses. Not because the work was wrong, but because the fuel running it was never real motivation. It was an escape from an uncomfortable truth about themselves. Jung believed this was one of the most widespread and least recognized forms of psychological suffering in modern life. We spend our whole lives chasing things we think we want, when what we actually want is to feel safe, seen, and worthy. And when we finally see that clearly, the chase stops making sense. Jung was clear that this is not a tragedy. It is a liberation, even if it does not feel like one. Because underneath all the fear-driven ambition, there is something else, something quieter, something completely different in quality. Jung called it the self with a capital S, not the ego, not the social identity you've been constructing since childhood. The deeper self, the authentic core, the part of you that existed before the world started telling you who to be. And the self has desires too, but they do not push or pressure. They do not carry that grinding, anxious, have-to energy. They feel more like a pull, a quiet current you can choose to step into. But you cannot access that quieter voice, while the louder one is still running the show. The noise drowns out the signal. And this is precisely why awakening has to dismantle your old motivation before something new can emerge. The gap between losing your old motivation and finding the new kind can feel like an eternity. Jung documented cases where this phase lasted months, cases where it lasted years. The difference came down to one thing: how consciously they navigated it. Most people do one of two things in the void. They force themselves back into old patterns, grinding through goals they no longer believe in, or they collapse entirely and give up on the idea of purpose. Jung said both responses are understandable, and both are wrong. There is a third way. He called it conscious waiting. Conscious waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means something very specific. It means learning to sit in discomfort without filling it immediately. It means asking certain questions and then being quiet long enough to actually hear the answers. Jung developed 3 specific practices for this phase. The first, sacred grieving. Before you can move forward, you have to give yourself permission to grieve what you are leaving behind. Your old ambitions, even the fear-driven ones, gave you something. They gave you structure, identity, a sense of direction when you woke up in the morning. Losing that is a real loss, and it deserves to be acknowledged as one. Jung had patients write letters to their old desires, letters that acknowledged what those desires had provided, what they had protected them from, why they no longer fit. He found that when you honor something consciously, You do not need to hold on to it unconsciously. The release becomes real. The second practice, active imagination. This is not positive visualization, not manifesting, something more specific and more interesting than either of those. Active imagination is the practice of deliberately entering into dialogue with the unconscious parts of yourself. You become quiet, you set an intention, and then you listen, not for logical thoughts, but for images, impulses, feelings, fragments that arise without you forcing them. Oh, Jung's recommended question was simple. Not, what should I do with my life? Not, what will make me successful? Just this. What wants to be born through me? And then you write down whatever comes, without judging it, without asking whether it makes practical sense. You just receive it. Jung documented cases where this practice led somewhere unexpected. A corporate attorney who kept seeing images of herself building furniture with her hands, a retired soldier drawn to painting, a tech executive who discovered a hunger to teach. None of it made immediate logical sense, but all of it, when followed with curiosity rather than judgment, led somewhere true. The third practice, symbolic living, the hardest to explain, possibly the most powerful. Symbolic living means reorganizing your choices around what genuinely calls to you, rather than what strategically advances you. Following fascination instead of obligation. Choosing resonance over resume. Paying attention to what makes you feel more alive, and treating that as meaningful data. Jung was not suggesting you quit your job and move to a mountain. He was suggesting something smaller and more radical. That you start orienting your choices by a different compass, one that points toward authentic expression rather than external approval. And what he found was that people who began practicing this, even in small daily choices, began to feel the first stirrings of a new kind of motivation, something that did not burn hot and bright like before, but something steadier, something that came from inside, rather than from fear of what would happen if they stopped. I want to describe what this new kind of motivation actually feels like when it arrives, because it is so different from what most of us have been trained to expect that many people miss it entirely. The old motivation has a very specific texture. It is urgent, pressured. There is always a hum of anxiety underneath it, a sense that you need to get somewhere before time runs out. It lives in your body as tension, and it is deeply conditional. It requires external reinforcement to keep going. If no one is watching, it starts to flicker. The new kind, the one that emerges from the other side of the void, feels completely different. It is calm, patient. There is no urgency in it. It does not require external validation to sustain itself. You are energized by the activity itself, not by what other people think of it. Jung described patients who found this as saying, "I do not feel like I am working. I feel like I am remembering something I always knew." That quality, expression rather than achievement, is one of the most reliable signals that you have found something real. Another signal, sustainability. The old motivation depletes you, even when it is working. The new kind generates energy. You come away from your work feeling more alive than when you started. Jung also noted that this motivation does not operate on a steady schedule. It comes in waves and cycles. Trying to force it to run on a constant timetable is like trying to tell the ocean when to have waves. The rhythm is its own. Here's where I want to leave you. The emptiness you might be sitting in right now is not the absence of meaning. It is the beginning of it, the real version. The version that does not collapse under pressure, because it was never built on anything fragile. Carl Jung studied the human psyche at its most complex and most troubled, and the conclusion he kept returning to was this: the people who suffered most were not the ones who had the darkest experiences. They were the ones who refused to let those experiences teach them anything. The people who came through the void, who let the old self dissolve without panicking, consistently reported something remarkable. Not just peace, purpose, not just clarity, an alignment between who they were and how they were living. That is available to you, not in spite of the emptiness. Because of it, the chrysalis always looks like nothing is happening. But something is. So before you go, one question. Where are you right now in this process? Are you still trying to force the old motivation back? Are you in the void, trying to make sense of the emptiness? Or have you started to feel something quieter beginning to move? Tell me in the comments, one word or one sentence. I read everyone.